after I graduated, I was pretty lucky and I got a job immediately. I got it like with the help of my uncle. So that's how I have my current job. And it was really scary because one, since it's in I live in the San Fernando Valley and my work is in Irvine. So basically I had to find a new apartment. And once I found a new apartment, I also had no one with me. There's no one around me. And um basically Santa Cruz being Santa Cruz, everyone's up north. And with the exception of a few people, but they're not really near me. And so I think the transition was really hard because you go from being around all your friends, they're literally down the street. You can call them, be like, yo, you want to go to Safeway? Yeah, let's go to Safeway. To you can't really get a hold of everyone because everyone's so busy. So that's something I realized once I left. It's like this space, this community is something I definitely took for granted. I feel like a lot of people do because they're in it. They don't really know that eventually it's not going to be there anymore. Um, so, but when I got to my work, at least I was able to make friends there, and using the leadership skills I applied in or I learned as co-chair and admin, I was able to get into bigger and better projects. So like first I was in this web app development project and that was pretty fun. But then um my manager said I was doing a good job. So did I want to try taking on a bigger client in New York? And I was like, okay. So I think that what he saw in me was definitely the skills I've sharpened by holding office basically. Um Unfortunately I can't really say that I've proved that much because of like coronavirus. I was supposed to actually travel to New York and be with them, but I can't anymore. But like at least now I feel like I'm more well prepared for this project. Like, although I have really strange hours, I know how to deal with people now. I know I know how to speak my mind too. I'm just not a pushover anymore. Because I used to be a really big pushover. But now I value my self-worth to say like, hey, that's not fair. And I respect other people and I know how to say like, hey, we're not really on the same page on this project or on this task. Like, come on, let's talk it through so we can finish this on time, kind of thing. And yeah, that's one of the main things I've learned as well from being in Bayanihan. So just like self-development skills, like personal, or no, no, professional skills. And I also learned that being around people is something we take for granted a lot, especially in this pandemic. Kind of like amplified.
So I was so lost at one point, had the post grad blues because I was like, oh my goodness, like I graduated, but I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. I know I want to do medicine, but what does that really mean? And then I started kind of doubting myself and thinking, oh my gosh, like people in my post-bac program were scribes or they were MA, like medical assistants, or they had all these shadowing hours or have all these clinical experiences. And I was like, what did I do in college? I was a part of FSA. Great. How is that going to help me in medicine? And nothing against like the PhilAm space, right? But I was like, I need clinical experience. I need to be in this field of healthcare that I have never been, and I already feel so lost and late because I already graduated. But now I feel even more behind because I have zero experience and I'm working literally from the ground up. But hindsight, I think that my journey through FSA was actually very much contributed to who I am and the type of physician that I want to become. And I know you're probably like, okay, so how does FSA have anything to do with healthcare? Like, please connect the dots earlier. And so for me, I've kind of just really learned about how, one, transferable skills, and then two, kind of really just recognizing what you can take away from every experience. And as I mentioned with FSA, it was about inclusivity and servant leadership and having a voice to a group of minorities, right? Like being a part of PCC isn't just about having this big showcase. Like, yes, that's one of the best parts, is being able to come together and have this like performance, but a big part of it is the keyword celebration. And so I think celebration doesn't just mean, oh, we're having a party, we're having this big event, we're having a happy thing. It's celebrating a culture, celebrating an identity. And that identity is one that is a group that's not always given a voice, right? Um, and so for me, taking away all these valuable experiences really taught me things like being humble and servant leadership and inclusivity and you know, what is cultural humility, and all of those things were able to guide me to become the type of physician that I want to be. And a lot of the prep work that I've done, I've met with a lot of admissions. I work very closely with my advisors in my post-bac program, and a lot of them always talk about, and not to toot my own horn, but they were all saying how, like, your perspective is so unique and valuable because like, there's so many phenomenal physicians out there. There's so many great people, but they take the generic route of, oh, they mark off boxes to get clinical work in. They have all these hours of experiences in the healthcare setting, and they're smart, they're great, they have phenomenal grades, they figured out what they wanted to do and went straight out of college, and that's phenomenal and fantastic. But they were like, your story and your experiences within your organizations, within your PhilAm spaces, are going to make you the physician that you are going to become, and that physician is going to be great. They're going to be inclusive, you're going to be inclusive, you're going to be understanding of the difficulties and perspectives that minorities have gone through because you literally went through that experience in college through your PhilAm. And then because of my PhilAm organizing, because like, as I mentioned, we work with a lot of minorities and underserved communities being a part of the PhilAm space, that led me to having the skill sets I needed to eventually get a position in leadership. And also because, transferable skills from co-chairing and PDT coordinating, I was able to transfer those skills and become a director of a clinic, which is a nonprofit free clinic in the Bay Area. So, I mean, like, that sounds wild, right? Like, it sounds fancy. I don't feel fancy, but I was able to become a director of a clinic because of the transferable skills that came from FSA. And then on top of that, that led to me meeting an advisor and a professor of mine in my postbac program who did public health work. And I thought, well, I love PhilAm community work and I want to go into medicine. Perfect to bring out this, experience with public health. And he mentored me and, ended up writing me a letter for medical school, and he connected me with my current experience. So I had actually helped start a Filipinx COVID-19 resource and response team with Dr. Inez Ponce, who she's like the principal investigator for the California Health Interview Survey, along with a physician, Carlos Arance. And so because of my PhilAm experience, it's now leading me to all these other connections and networks that I didn't even think were ever going to be possible. And
so I came to UC Santa Cruz, and I was a legal studies major. I had intended on trying to move into a career path in law, and going in that direction. And honestly, it's not even like out of the question. Like, that's what I graduated with. But the thing that really got me going and the thing that really got me passionate is working within community, and doing things for people around me. And then as I name dropped camp and ASF, and like they really brought to me what education means to people. And like when I was like, before I got to UC Santa Cruz, education to me was just like kind of like a checklist. It's just like, it's what my family wants me to do. I need to go ahead and finish that, and see what happens next in life. But like, that's not the reality for a lot of people. Some people needed more supports or deserved more supports in getting through like the education system and being able to like be what they're trying to be in the world today. And that's what really drove me to what I eventually decided to do after City Year. So I've been I think I called it City Year already. After FSA, I've moved into an organization called City Year, and I've actually been working here ever since my graduation. So I'm in year 5 working with City Year. And what we do is we try to promote and enforce educational equity in the local schools that we provide support at. So this involves tutoring students, providing an after-school program. It's a very loaded thing. Trying to explain it is probably like me trying to explain everything that FSA Bayanihan does for its community. And so it's just like, but like that's also like what I love about it. So like being in all these aspects in FSA and Bayanihan is just like, I loved how busy I was, and I loved kind of like the hustle and bustle of being in community and working in my relationships with people. and doing all of that, which eventually pushed me into a really good spot to like, I'm a manager now at City Year, and I use a lot of the talents I've gained from like coordinating an aspect group that works with a whole bunch of different groups in the same organization to figure out solutions and to really be there, even if our backgrounds or some of our philosophies can be a little bit different. So like all of that really led me to be into a space where I feel like I believe in myself of just like promoting something good in the world, which is educational equity and providing support for people who deserve it, because it honestly should be there.